Hi again, friends. Toy here. I'm doing this video today to talk about comorbidities. What? Comorbidities. So those are the things that you might have in addition to your OCD. And we don't talk about this as often as we probably should. All right. So I do have a paper with the statistics. So if you see me looking, that's why I'm cheating a little bit. I experienced comorbidities. So with my OCD, I also experienced a eating disorder. I was bulimic for 20 plus years and did not know that the two things were related ever at all until way later. And so that's why I'm sharing this with you. So you're armed with some information and also so you know you're not alone. I've also experienced generalized anxiety disorder. I've also experienced ADHD. And I want you to know that this is staggering. 69% of folks with OCD also experience some other issue or disorder, okay? Just know that, because knowing that information is very powerful, especially when you go to talk to a doctor. So for instance, I went to a doctor and got prescribed medication for ADHD. When I took said medication, it was not good. OCD did not like it. And OCD was like, oh, hey, now I can really flood you with some thoughts. So it was not pleasant. But things like that. Sometimes your doctor or clinician, especially if they're not a therapist, won't really understand about the comorbidities and OCD, because most physicians, it's getting better, but most physicians really don't understand obsessive compulsive disorder. It's probably a lot to do with the fact that the media makes it sound like everybody has OCD because I organize my soups. We'll talk about that in detail. You know, that's, unless you're organizing your soups by alphabetical order because your brain is telling you if you don't, something bad's going to happen, then you probably don't have OCD. In any case, I just wanted to give you some of the statistics, okay? So some of the more common comorbidities are in the anxiety category, where I mentioned generalized anxiety disorder, GAD. About 30 to 40% of folks that have OCD also experience this. You're probably saying, yeah, duh. If you've got your brain screaming at you all day long, of course you're going to be anxious. Fun fact, although, a lot of people lump OCD in with anxiety, it's like OCD is an anxiety disorder. The DSM, the manual that is the, mental health manual of everything, says that they are not the same thing. They're different. You can pull that out at a cocktail party. You can say, oh no, the DSM-5 says nope. OCD has its very own category. Yay. Social anxiety disorder, or SAD, 20 to 30%. That's another one where you're probably like, yeah, toy, duh. When you're doing repetitive things and if you present outwardly like I did at times, you kind of start avoiding things and people because you're afraid that you're going to scare them or they're going to think some certain kind of way about you. And so that one also makes sense. Panic disorder. About 25% of folks with OCD can experience panic attacks or panic disorders. This is a biggie. I myself have been in the ER more than once, more than 3 times, because I was experiencing a panic attack and I didn't know it. In fact, one time when I was a principal at a school, I was having a day where I felt like I was just running all day. I just was like, I had never experienced a panic attack up until that point, and that was in my 30s. So it was kind of wild. And I ended up actually hyperventilating and having to call an ambulance on the side of the highway, which was, not a great day. But I didn't know, and I didn't know what a panic attack actually was. You hear about it, but until you experience it, you really don't understand. So that's a biggie. For the mood category, we have mood disorders like depression. 25 to 50% of folks with OCD can experience depression or depressive-like symptoms. That's tricky. Depression is another one of those things like OCD, and it's insidious. When you say, oh, I'm depressed, and people toss that around, but people that actually experience depression, it's really hard and it's really bad, and I wish we could fix that one too. OCD and depression always kind of get tossed around like, oh yeah, hey, whatever. And it's not that way. So Bipolar disorder, 10 to 15% of folks with OCD can also be bipolar. I have not experienced that, but I have a dear friend that does, and understanding what she goes through, it's really hard, and that is a very serious one where you need that. These are all serious, but bipolar, that's something where getting the medications mixed up, if your doctor doesn't realize you have OCD and bipolar at the same time, that is a very dangerous combination. So make sure that your medical professionals know that. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. So that was one that I've experienced and still do. When I first took medication for ADHD, it was not good for my OCD. And I know that I can't do that because it's triggering, quite frankly. Tic syndrome, Tourette's and other tic disorders, 10 to 30%. I've not experienced Tourette's, but I know that OCD and Tourette's are linked very closely. But I also know folks with OCD that have other types of tic disorders. I don't think I ever had that, but when I did do things like shaking my head or putting my, orange juice back on the shelf 100 times, it kind of looked that way. And for a while, I even hurt my neck because I was shaking my head so much to get the thoughts out. So that's a biggie too. Substance use, 10 to 25%. That's something that is very dangerous, but also makes sense, right? When you're trying to numb, you're just trying to run away from your brain, and that's dangerous, and you need to make sure that your medical professional knows that as well. Eating disorders, I mentioned I was bulimic, and that's 5 to 15%. And so I had no idea that the two, OCD and my eating disorder, could be linked, or I was more likely to have one or the other because of it. But that was a very, very hard thing to deal with. And I think that what it was is that I was numbing with food, and then it turned into having whole body issues and things. So very hard. And then other, people with OCD are also more likely to have body dysmorphic disorder, obsessive compulsive personality disorder. That was a new one for me, and we'll talk about that in another video. Being a hypochondriac. I mean, these all make sense, right? When you have OCD, you have these things yelling at you in your brain all day long. So I wanted to share these with you because of my personal experience and me not knowing to say anything to anybody. When I got treatment for my eating disorder, I never shared that I had OCD, and that would have been really helpful to that therapist. I also am sharing this because I don't want you to feel like you're alone. I felt like a hot, crazy mess, and, didn't know what to do, and saw the wrong therapist and took some of the wrong medication because I didn't know that all of these things were happening all at once. So you're not alone. Like, again, 69% of people with OCD have something else as well. So I wanted to share that so that you're armed with those resources. I'll put some links in the show notes for some, citations and where you can find more information about these. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. Thanks for listening. Bye.